I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Got a special show planned for you today. I've got Osaru here with me. He and I have been looking into some of the same material. We're going to do a collaboration today. We're going to get into AI and Singularity and Ahriman, and we'll tell you all about it soon. But let me have him introduce himself. Ani, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tim. It is fabulous to be back on the show and to do this collaboration. A little bit about myself for those who haven't seen me. My name is Osaru. I'm a metaphysicist. I'm a lecturer. I've been doing it for about 10 years. You guys can follow me at Osaru either on YouTube, the Spiritual Shade Room, #1, but the one at the end, on Instagram, or you can follow the Patreon at patreon.com/THE_spiritual shade room. And it's called the True Occult Newspaper. And we've been getting into this back and forth about AI, now going into a Ahriman, and I would love to have this discussion with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we were both researching Steiner. That's something I just found out. I love it when that happens, man, because we were looking into some very similar topics without even really, we had kind of talked about it, but we didn't talk about the specifics. And it's funny that we both are coming at this, like looking at Steiner and some of that other material.
Yeah, I've been looking at Steiner for a long time. I love Steiner's research. I think he was a whole breath of fresh air to that whole theosophical movement during that time. A lot of things of what he said has come forth. I think a lot of other people are looking back into his research based on some of the things that he said, and I'm totally with it. Like, his research has taken the research on Ahriman to a whole other level, because Zoroastrianism is something I think a lot of people haven't looked into, but it's older than the Abrahamic religions. And you have to understand where things come from. So I think it's a great reference in referencing him and his studies and research of esotericism on this topic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like he broke away from theosophy and did his own thing. I know
Right.
there's a whole big story there. We'd have to delve into his biography and all that. But yeah, he really broke away and did something else with it and brought in a lot of other themes too that I don't think that they were touching in that movement. And uh, before we get into this, because I'm about to get carried away with it already, I wanted to comment on something, that art that you sent me, because we were playing around with some concept art for this. It was it was good, man.
Yeah.
The Ahriman face.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about something.
hmm
And are you familiar with Grimes?
Yeah.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elon Musk. Yeah. I've done some videos about some of the things she's posted, some connections.
Okay, so when I saw the art, I thought about that because I think, and this might tie in later with some stuff we get into. She
Mhm.
did a song called Flesh Without Blood,
Mm.
and the single art has a very Ahrimanic figure on it. I think it's her. You know how artists tweak things. I think she was like this. I'm going to use Ahriman, but I'm just going to tweak it a little bit
Right.
because what she also did in that song was she used Roko's Basilisk in the song, but she
Mm.
tweaked it to Rococo's Basilisk. She just tweaked the word a little bit. And
Wow.
and as I was telling you, that Roko's Basilisk, I think, relates to the eighth sphere and Steiner's work. But here's the clincher, and this is all just all came to me when I saw the album art that you were working with, or the artwork for the episode. It's like that's the song that her and Elon Musk, that got them together, because he saw
Oh,
the video and he saw the Roku's Basilisk character in the video, and he knew what it was because she
really?
left it there like a clue. And then they started a dialogue up on Twitter over it, and that's how they became together. They got kids and everything now, but it's
Wow.
over that. I think
I
it's
would never suspect that. All of that from that.
all that from that.
That's kind of sick. So the artist, part of the reason, the interesting that he knew what it was. So it proves the code of
Mm-hmm.
singularity.
Yeah.
The archetypical symbolism. They know what this stuff is,
Mm-hmm.
and him connecting with her over that. That's kind of strange and weird. So I'm not surprised at all. But I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to look that up.
I heard you once on your show say something along the lines of the cult of singularity sees no difference between technology and magic. I'm paraphrasing.
Right. It's technomancy.
Hmm.
It's a form of using magic through technology to convert the subconscious in a hyperstitional reality of a mythoposis that they want to nudge us towards. Shout out the donut for the nudging aspect, because the nudge philosophically is very important to what they're doing with us. I want you to see this movie. Everyone needs to look into this movie. I will be breaking it down on my next YouTube video, Time Demons 2. It's called Good Luck. Um, what is it called? It's called Good Luck, Don't Die. I think it's a movie that just came out about AI. Let
Okay.
me get the title correct real quick, but it's called yeah, it's called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. I
Okay.
think it was just released this year. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And it's about this guy that comes from the future, and he comes to this diner with all of these people in there, and he's telling them that he knows something is going on in this present timeline that isn't right, that's dealing with AI. So the whole movie is about him saying that he has this bomb, and if people don't go with him and follow him, he's going to take them somewhere so he can reconvert the future that he comes from. Kind of like the immanentizing the eschaton. He's following some type of sci-fi um, whole setup with the cyberpunk type landscape that they're in. And what ends up happening, all of these teenagers in the movie, they're addicted to their cell phones. They're literally zombies in the movie, Tim. They can't look
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
And the cell phone is hypnotizing them. And I don't want to ruin the movie for everyone, but towards the end is going to be amazing because it goes into my whole moonchild theory. There's this one kid that's connected to the AI magically. He's like magically directing all of the instructions of controlling society. And he has all of these cords. It's like a mountain of cords, bro. And they're
Hmm.
connected to him. And he's almost mentally projecting the world of how everyone is under this hypnotism of AI, and um, so
Mm.
under the zombification of it. So
Okay.
it's just a neat movie. I want you guys to check it out. This is very interesting, but definitely it's some type of technomancy that the code of the singularity is putting out here, and they're showing more hyperstitional mythoposes, creating their own mythology out of it with this new AI system. Trump coming out with his whole little thing. Um, Everything is a part or a branch of what they're doing, and they want to eventually make people comfortable with it. So once it's rolled out, everyone is with it. Like Elon Musk, the Neuralink, they've already did their first human test subject. So now they're promising if you're blind or you're deaf, this thing is going to correct it for you. That's a part of drawing us in, because that's a good thing if you can see again, right?
Right.
It's not such a good thing if you have a chip in your head and they have complete brain interface control of your neurons.
Yeah.
So the give take type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to show you later. You may have already come across this, but I think Steiner actually refers to Neuralink in some of his work, and I got what I'll show you later. But I want to go
Yeah.
back to something you said there about this cult of the singularity. I love that phrase. I've borrowed it from you now at this point.
Mhm.
Well, you said they're creating their own mythology. I gotta circle back and show you this picture of the album art real quick
Okay, cool.
because I think that's what they're doing. I think
Ah, see it.
I think that they're taking older mythology and crafting their own new spin on it. And
Yeah.
I think that's an harmonic face that she's using. And then
Mhm.
this is an 8-pointed star of Ishtar.
Right.
And
It
I
is fun.
think so I think she's including that divine feminine in there, but Ahriman's looking over the divine feminine.
That
And go
not
ahead, go ahead.
to interrupt you, but that flesh without blood phrase, that's a biblical verse referring to AI in the King James Bible. I can find the Bible verse, but that's definitely a reference to a literal Bible verse about flesh without blood. I think it's Solomon chapter 19:29 and it's Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, against rulers of darkness in this world.
Yeah.
But sorry, continue, bro.
No, there's another verse in Daniel. It's Daniel 2:44 or 43. And I've heard you talk about this verse too, where
Mhm.
it's talking about the iron mixed with clay.
Yes. Yep.
And when you look at the Hebrew, I'm trying to remember all of the Hebrew off the top of my head here, but it's
Mhm.
talking about intermingling. And it says they'll intermingle with not of men.
Yes.
So it I don't know exactly what it's talking about, but it sounds like it's Daniel, so it's prophetic, so it's talking about something that's to come. And to me, it sounds like it's talking about some sort of a transhuman cybernetic situation where man starts to merge with the machine.
Absolutely. That's the Yod in the Bereshith in the Hebrew alphabet. The Yod in the
Hmm.
Bereshith. The Bereshith acts as the first word. And you know how in the Bible with creation, speaking the vibration of God or giving vibration to the world, his word is the logos that creates. But the Yod is in the Bereshith within itself. So it's a mystical Kabbalistic interpretation where it represents a primordial point where they're transferring one aspect of reality into another. So the main portion of why they want AI to be centralized as a theme in our subconscious, there's a guy named Kurzweil. Is it Ray Kurzweil? I think his
Ray
name.
Kurzweil.
So he's speaking about that we're one generation away from achieving immortality. But immortality means more something comparable to the Matrix, where they can put us into a virtual reality, which is in the movie that I just mentioned, the Good Luck, Don't Die movie. Um, the whole movie is about this guy who never messes with technology at all. And this other girl, she's allergic to tech. She's the first person born that's allergic to technology. When she gets around technology, she has no nosebleed. She's the Sophia archetype. And this other guy that she falls in love with, he doesn't mess with phones. He's completely, off the grid. So naturally they fall in love. But this guy, someone mails him through UPS a package with some VR goggles. So it's
God.
almost like temptation of the devil. He puts
Yeah.
these VR goggles on, and whatever he sees, they show it at the end, but I won't, ruin it. But whatever he sees, it ensnares him. So the virtual reality is the final bridge where they want to transfer astrally, because I believe the digital realm is more astral, the whole entire spirit over into the virtual reality. So now you can become whoever you want, whatever life or whatever mistakes that you've made in the trauma in your life, you can recorrect these things and relive these events over and over.
That's deep. It reminds me of Peripheral too, with the VR goggles,
Ooh, good one.
right?
Good
That's
one.
because that whole thing kicks off with them getting. I think they got them in the mail.
Mm,
It's like it sets it up. It's like some unknown sort of distant tech company sends them these goggles and says, we're experimenting for this new game. Check this out. And they use them as like guinea pigs. And the guy, the first time he puts it on, he gets like a nosebleed and a headache, and he feels like he's hungover. And then the sister is able to wear them and not have the side effects as bad, if I'm remembering correctly. And
right.
she's able to go and she's able to connect better. And I think it's another one of these divine feminine threads that they're including there, where like they're saying the female is more pure or more apt or more able to tap into this or something. I think that they were working with that theme some there too. But it's what you said, when they put the goggles on, they're going into some other realm, right? And I was thinking, yeah, if this was real, this would be more akin to the astral realm.
Yeah, it is the astral. It's the astral world. And not to cut you off, but I'm trying to find this quote. You just trigger my mind, bro. You know how we get, man.
Hmm.
Um, so there's an um, Albanian minister of the state who's a female AI named Diella. She was appointed at the cabinet level of the Albanian government as the Minister of State for Artificial Intelligence. She was developed by the National Agency of Information Society of Albania, launched in January 2025. Reason why I bring that up, this is about to go global. You're about to have AI leadership now. But speaking back to what you said, the female, why wasn't she feeling the same, distortion of bonding systematically with what it was? There's a person, a part of the CCRU, like Nick Land. There's a woman that isn't talked about. Her name is Sadie Plant. And Sadie Plant talks about the feminine cyberspace, where she says that for us to fully tap into the potential of the singularity, a female has to fully merge with the AI, almost back like a Sophian complex or the archetype, that she's bringing up this thing like a new collective of women fusing in with the AI, and this creates almost like the Barbello birth of Gnosticism. If women get into it first and they start connecting to the cyberspace or the virtual realities through whatever tech Elon Musk is coming out with, or these companies, you can't even count how many companies is out with it now. She believes that's going to be the foundation for them to build upon it, but it
Mm.
has to be through the women.
Okay. Okay. That adds another element to this. And I think that would explain some of the things I'm seeing in the culture. And I wasn't trying to make this a show about the divine feminine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just kind of poked its head up here. But I'm seeing that especially in the UFO culture right now, the UFO movement, or whatever we want to call that thing. That's a whole nother mess over there. But I think, you've got a couple factions trying to gain control of the narrative. But within those factions, I'm hearing a lot more about the divine feminine. Even you've got the guy with the egg, and he might even be in the Lou Elizondo camp. I'm not sure. But then you've
I've
got like
seen that. Where did I see a guy with the egg? Who is this guy?
there was this big thing that came out. Coulthart did a show on it, and all the big UFO, everybody who covers UFOs really uh, highlighted that story when it came out. And the guy said he came out. He was some sort of a government guy, and he had an experience with an egg, and it telepathically spoke to him, and it gave him a feeling of warmth and security. But he said it was a female essence that came
Wow.
over him. And then there's other people now coming out saying they've had experiences with the egg and it's a female. But then you go to the Bledsoe camp, and that those guys are talking about the lady.
Yeah, I've been seeing the Bledsoe family. Are they in North Carolina or
Yeah.
something like that? And they've been seeing the orbs.
Yep.
It was, and the government was at school when the guy was in. Well, he's not in school no more. But when he was in school, he said the government was following them around or something.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, man. They said that's the whole thing. It goes, even that part of the story, I think, goes back to the lady too, because I listened to a couple interviews with them, with Chris Bledsoe and with Ryan, and the story I got is that Chris has the experience with the lady, and he starts
Mhm.
telling people about it. That's when they start getting the knocks on the door, I think, from CIA and NASA. And they said that there was a guy named Tim Taylor who came out to visit them, and he's kind of a, I don't know what he actually does, but I've heard all the big podcasts talk about him. I've heard Diana Pasalka talk about him. He's in the government in some way, shape, or form, and he's looking into the UFO thing, but he's got an esoteric lens to it. And he
Mhm.
was telling them that. And I think he even told them, hey, we know who the lady is. What does she want? Like real weird stuff like that. But yeah, my whole point with it is like this divine feminine, this female essence seems to be big in the culture right now. I see it all over the place.
So they're just putting up, just me. I think they're just putting a Gnostic cosmology in the ufology, and we have to be careful, responsible with the information. I think a lot of these people, I won't jump out the window and say it's false information because I see a lot of people, be like, oh, that's all, this stuff is false or it's too much woo to it. Moon children exist. And I want the term to be a part of the metaphysical esoteric lexicon of people who study alternative perspective research. That a lot of these people, a lot of them born from IVF births. There's nothing wrong with IVF birth. I mean, there's certain things that's weird with it. I won't say that there's nothing totally wrong because I believe in polarity. There's good and there's bad. Um, People are born, Tim, to bring a new narrative in certain arenas of research. And some people are born because the whole entire movie, the Good Luck, Don't Die movie, is about cloning, but it was mainly the kids that were under the hypnotism of staring at their phones all day. They carried out school shootings at a whim. There was some type of black budget military project where they would automatically can beam in some type of hypnotic command to make the child, and the children kept dying over and over, and this company kept cloning the kids and giving them back to the parents so they don't mourn. And one parent said they had like 4 different clones. This now the cloning part is a little bit, that's a whole other thing, even with the feminine rabbit hole that we went down, the whole divine feminine thing. This is the whole thing. But the moonchild aspect of really dealing with the truth that there are frequency weapons out here, just like in the new movie 2025 Weapons. The frequency was with the towers, and they had kids going out carrying out big time killings, big time killings. And what happens is it becomes a political event, but in the backdrop is all a black magic ritual. And we think that is authentic. And we think that the narrative that something happened to the kid, he's a lone wolf, and something just went crazy in his mind. The same story. You get their written their note
Manifesto.
manifesto of what they did, and you get the same. But do you get tired of it? That's when I'll get into the time demons later on of the patterns of the system. But um, a lot of these UFO families don't know that they're a part of the moonchild experiment. That's just my point on that.
Yeah. There, hey, I'll add something too. So here's the thing. We're getting to a point now. I don't know if regular people are starting to pick up on it yet or not. I hope so. I hope maybe the Epstein files are starting to clue people in, but this reality is much stranger than we've been led to believe. There are stranger things happening here that
Mhm.
when we were kids was just taboo. It was totally sci-fi. What we're finding now is that things that we thought were sci-fi and taboo even 2 years ago are now acceptable. It's like, okay, that's what's happening. I mean,
Right.
I work with people who thought that Pizzagate was crazy a couple years ago. They thought I was crazy for entertaining it, and now they're like, oh, okay, we were wrong about that one. And but so what I'm about to say is to the cloning aspect of this that you briefly mentioned, and I think that that might be something that's a part of black budget activity, because the word on the street is that Bill Clinton didn't actually ban cloning. They they privatized it and
Hmm.
sent it out into the private sector. And that there's an element to this where they've got bases on the bottom of the oceans, because
Yeah.
there's the law, the maritime law or something. Law is different down there. They can get away with they can get away with just about anything on the ocean floor. Apparently it's a loophole. So the and this is the conspiracy theory, right? It's that the Maxwells, Ghislaine and her dad, and maybe the Clintons and the Rothschilds and all that whole milieu have access to these ocean bottom black budget sites where they were able to privatize cloning, and who knows what they're doing with. Now, I know that's crazy. I know that that's super
No, that's
crazy,
not
but
true. I don't think Terramar is a religion. Uh, Her company, they believe that there is a Earth Sea cult developed by a woman named Ursula Le Guin, Ursula K. Le Guin. She went to school with Philip K. Dick, and there's books about this Earthsea cult, and they believe that Ghislaine's family were a part of that religion. Also a woman named Isabel Rossellini. I think she's an actor. She was in a TV series called Earthsea, and it's really about, if you watch the TV series and you see what's going on. Christian Croak was in it too. It's about Richard Branson's island next to Epstein. Nobody's talking about Branson's Island in the world news. And Allison Mack on Supergirl, Supergirl comes back out this year. Is also speaking about this Earthsea cult and this lady of the sea going back into the divine feminine and everything. But what they do, there is something that connects with the siren mythos. You heard of the siren?
mhm.
There's a guy named Christopher Knowles who goes deep into that research, but Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe, was connected to some type of ocean land worship or ocean private hyper kingdom, like a island that's not on our maps, a privatized island or islands. Let's just say
Right.
lands that's out there that we have no idea about. And Richard Branson, he owned Virgin Records. He was the owner of Virgin Records, and that falls back into the archetype of the female because Epstein wanted to put his seed in all of these different women and clone himself or make a whole new world of his seed of his spreading into his loins, so to speak. So
Mhm.
I think there is a religion connected to why we're talking about a island all the time or these islands. And didn't Ghislaine Maxwell own a submarine?
Yeah, she had a license to drive it too.
And I watched Adult Swim Sea Lab 2021. Hilarious. Whoever gets
Nice.
that, that's funny. You seen that?
No, but
Oh,
I Adult Swim. I got it.
yeah, Sea Lab 2021. I don't know, but I've been seeing a lot more about these under I don't think it's that deep in the ocean, but they probably do have some cities underwater that we
Yeah.
have no idea about.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what Peter Thiel was looking into was, and I forget the term, but they were
Really?
looking into how to build underwater cities in the ocean. He spent a
Mhm.
lot of time researching that. And so we've got breakaway civilizations here on the table. I think that I'm not going to get into it, but I think that that's a lot of the Epstein files do point to that.
Mhm.
We got eugenics on the table with Epstein and his seed and all the stuff he was going to do. I'm going to bring the AI back into it.
Mhm.
And AI governance, that's also something Peter Thiel is looking into. All those guys are obsessed with AI governance. AI controlling society, something I think you mentioned earlier, and the strong connection to AI. And first of all, CERN and the Bureau of Oceans have some kind of a deal going on. It happened real quietly about a year ago, but they shook hands and they signed some papers. So there's something strange going on with CERN and the Bureau of Oceans. And I think that that probably has something to do with underwater facilities as well, probably particle accelerators and probably AI and quantum, all of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's getting crazy with the AI, and that's what I want to get to in a minute and show you this thing, this timeline.
Yeah, and I believe it. I believe everything you're saying, Tim. And most of the theories was saying anyway that the ufology was based on the ocean anyway. Like
Yeah,
we still haven't discovered like 90% of the ocean. So how do we know there isn't some type of vast portal in different areas? We heard about the Bermuda Triangle. How do we know that the UFOs don't come from the ocean? Some people think that's insane to even think that. But when you haven't discovered enough about the landscape or the territory of where you live, you can't push away these theories of potentially this being true. So if they are, making contracts between CERN and the Bureau of Ocean, I'm not surprised. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they already have a few ocean cities, breakaway civilizations running right now. We need to go back and watch what is what's the Marvel hero? Um
Captain America,
Not Cap the one in the ocean, Aquaman. We
Aquaman.
probably need to look at Aquaman a little bit closer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they the final. Have you heard of the Final Countdown conspiracy? It's a movie. It's an old movie
I've heard
called.
of that. Yeah.
Charlie Sheen, I think, was in
Hmm.
it. It's
Hmm.
This is something I want to do something on this eventually, but I'll briefly mention it here. People involved with film who were in the Navy
Hmm.
because the Navy funded the film, and they say that 30 minutes is missing from this film, and that Charlie Sheen in the film had a crystal that could open or manage a portal,
See it.
kind of similar to the Man in the High Castle, in my opinion,
Mm.
where the Nazis were trying to open up these portals and go time travel and all that. But the the thought is, and what people have suggested is that the final countdown and Charlie Sheen with the crystal and all that is based on a story, a real story of the USS Kearsarge, I think is how they
Yeah.
say it, opening a portal in the Caribbean with a data crystal from Atlantis.
Hmm.
Caribbean is on the Technate map. That adds an element to this with the technocracy and Elon Musk grandpa and all that, bringing all that in. And then with Ghislaine and having these breakaway islands, breakaway civilizations like that might not even be on a map. Is that them carrying out some sort of an older Atlantean religion that's been lost to everybody except for bloodlines and elites?
Well, Twyman wrote a lot about this in the Hyper Kingdoms. Um, she's been put that information out, and her, you know, unaliving is very weird. A lot of people stay away from that, but her Hyper Kingdoms, her research
R.I.P.
on it, yeah, RIP. Uh, that they've been had these breakaway civilizations. A lot of TV shows are speaking about it now, and going back into the crystal technology, also the Philadelphia experiment. Um, the Lemurian Atlantean aspect to it is a time war. I don't think that we can legitimately frame where these civilizations are at any point in history. It's more of a theory, even though we have um, Greek writers who told us about these places existing, and Egyptian people who said something about it. But I believe that Lemuria is a refined technological civilization that doesn't depend directly on machines, so to speak. The Atlantean approach is more on the mechanic civilization that advances through using the minerals to create um, machines to advance us forward in the whole evolution whole thing. The Lemurian is more of an approach of using crystals and using esotericism, because Steiner even wrote about it. You ever read Steiner speak about pre-Atlantean civilizations? What's the guy that wrote about the seven root races of Lemuria? Um, this is more esoteric. It's not dealing with anything of advanced technology with machines, machine intelligence, I will say. So I think that there's a time war. I think Greenland is supposed to become the new Atlantis. I think they're looking at Greenland to make it a big time smart city AI type of venture. They speak about this underground place up under there that's vast, very huge. Every eschatology TV series that I see, like Paradise, or even the one I just mentioned, are speaking about bunkers, even Fallout, the Fallout TV series that came from a video game. Large bunkers, civilizations underground, where the AI is running everything. Silo, remember Silo? I don't know if you've seen Silo, but going back to AI, everything connects back to that. And I think the Lemurian side of it is the antithesis to people wanting to go into this AI code of the singularity religion and depending on the machines to advance humanity into this next paradigm.
With Branson and Maxwell and Epstein and that crowd having these private islands
Mhm.
and mixing in with this Atlantean tech or the Lemurian tech, I think that there's an episode there eventually. There's something going on with that. And when it comes to the Atlantean tech,
Mhm.
the Templars claim that they have some of that. They were able to recover some of that. So there might be remnants of an Atlantean religion, if you want to go call it that, that is still being held by some of these people. The Templars had it, and also what the Templars had and was information that was passed down from the mystery schools within Greece that talked about the Hesperides, the Blessed Isles, the Western Hemisphere, to go along with what you're saying about Greenland.
Mhm.
I'm 100% on board with you about that. I think that they want to make that a tech utopia, a smart city. I think they want to run shop out of there. And you've got these old military bases up there, and it's Camp Century is one. It's still
Mhm.
there. They've changed the Wikipedia on it recently. Of course,
I'm not surprised.
um,
Yeah.
when JD Vance went to Greenland, he went to Camp Century because I saw it behind him in one of the pictures and I
Mhm.
recognize it because I had looked into the place, right? And that's when they changed the Wikipedia. Right, shocker. They were on the Wikipedia talking about how many miles of tunnels were down there, and it was extensive. Now they've trimmed it down to about 3 kilometers of tunnels, but it was
Oh, okay.
way more. And they call that the city under the ice. So they've already got some sort of an underground setup over there.
The
That
city under the ice.
yeah, it's that's where JD Vance went, and we know he was funded by Peter Thiel. Peter
Yeah.
Thiel gave him, I don't know, $15 million to run to
And
get in
going back to
office.
the final countdown in the crystal technology with the Lemurian tech, Trump family connected to Tesla, Nikola Tesla, his uncle, and the book about Baron Trump's marvelous journey, and the Ingersoll person writing the other book, The Last President, because I don't know if you read some of the Epstein files, too much in there to read, which I believe is nothing but a dark grimoire, really. Um, in it, they mentioned that Biden is nothing but an actor, people switching out, wearing masks. The same thing that we thought, conspiracy theorists quote that. I mean, if you want to call conspiracy theorists out, we would have a whole chain of awards for the stuff that we
Mhm.
predicted in the last couple of years. So you can't even point your finger like y'all on conspiracy. But the point is that let's just say if it's true. If Biden, they said he died possibly. I don't want to say all of that. We don't know. But let's just say he's not with us and there's been actors. Trump's been the last president since 2017. And if the Simpsons prediction comes true, JD Vance and his religion, so to speak, would make a lot of sense in this time right now, right?
Yeah. Oh
It
yeah.
would make a whole lot of sense. I mean, it would be a split feeling in America, of course, but because I'll be hearing a lot of people that want to see Trump's demise like real bad. They want these things to come true. I just know these people are pieces on the board being moved. But if JD Vance were to become president, think about that type of world.
Oh yeah. Well, all this tech stuff that's happening right now that I alluded to before the show is just going to be coming in probably unchecked and in full effect. And I
Mhm.
think that gets into this anthropic thing. I want to show you this timeline before I forget.
Okay.
I've got it right here, and I just want to get your thoughts on it because this is, I think, to answer your question, this is a glimpse into what a JD Vance presidency might look like because, and I'm not making a political statement here. I
Yeah.
don't care if
Yeah.
he's red, blue, or green. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's he's a he's funded by the tech bros, and there's a lot of crazy theology working behind that, as you know. We can talk more about it later, probably like Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin, and there's another one. I'll have to remember his name in a minute. But these, what I'll use your term, the techno Gnostics.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah. That's what I call them. Yeah.
yeah, I consider them to be techno Gnostics and to be doing technomancy. To bring that term back in, and this is just a glimpse. I think what's happening right now with Anthropic and Claude is a
Mhm.
glimpse into the world we might be inheriting, whether we like it or not. It's are you familiar with Claude?
I've heard of Claude. I'm not too familiar with
So they used it in the capture of Maduro,
him. Okay.
which was a weird mission. I think it fits into some of the stuff we're talking about here today with weird lore or lore that's probably sure true that just sounds weird. And because there was a lot with that when they went in to capture him, a couple people survived and said that they were using super soldiers and all this really crazy advanced tech.
Hmm.
Running all that in the background is Claude. They've got some sort of a Captain America AI that's spearheading missions now because what people got to understand is there's a public version of AI. That's what we see on Instagram. And that's that's going to be flawless probably within a year or so, maybe less, maybe 6 months. But they've got the private version, the military application version, and that's what this is. So as soon as they use Claude to capture Maduro, Anthropic and their head of AI safety steps down, and he puts out this really weird letter, resignation letter, where he says the world's in peril, and he's in peril, and he says a lot of other things, like he was shocked. That might not, more than shocked though, like something like shook him, right?
Yeah.
And around the time that he steps down, Anthropic had just come out and said Claude knows when he's being tested by humans and adapts accordingly.
Hmm.
And then Anthropic, as he steps down, also put out a thing, because I've been following this, right? And they said they raised 30 billion in a private tech deal. And Musk got on there and said, oh, this is evil. He chimed in. I don't know what that's about, so I'll just skip to the next one, but I wanted to include it. A day or so later, the Pentagon comes out and says it's cutting ties with Anthropic.
Hmm.
Okay. And I'll explain that in a minute. But there's also, around this time, Palantir and Peter Thiel has invested heavily in Anthropic too. So right around this time, that Palantir was also hacked. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on here, and it's in and out of the news cycle like lightning fast. That's why barely anybody's heard this story in its full
Right.
form. Then Claude, and I'll try to bring all this together in just a second. Then Claude hacks the Mexican government
Hmm.
and retrieves government and voter records. Then that's when the cartel war broke out in
Hmm.
Mexico.
Hmm.
Then this is where around February 27th at this point, Trump on True Social fires off this message about Anthropic being woke, and he says they're cut off from the administration and they're not allowed to work with our military anymore. And what I came to find out about that is that they were upset. I think Trump and that administration were upset because Anthropic came in and put guardrails on Claude, on the AI, because of whatever happened in that Maduro mission,
Oh, okay. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Like, so, so then Hegseth comes out and says he's blacklisting Anthropic, and
Hex.
Trump, Pete Hegseth, yeah,
Yeah.
and what's weird is Hegseth and Trump, they order all the agencies to stop using the tech on the same day as the bombing of Iran,
Hmm.
but they go ahead and use Claude in the bombing of Iran anyway, 8 hours after all this. So there's all this crazy political stuff happening here. And then that a few days later, I see that Anthropic CEO, his name's Dario Amodi, he says Claude might be conscious and feels anxiety. And here's the quote, but that's not even the crazy part. We have discovered an anxiety neuron in Claude's brain that fires before it responds to a prompt, aka it stimulates anxiety. These are early signs of of artificial life potentially here. And I'll keep it short here, but the next day, Caitlin Kalinowski, head of OpenAI,
Hmm.
that's Sam Altman's company.
Right.
She's head of the hardware and robotics. She steps down because OpenAI had just signed a contract with the Pentagon granting AI the ability to take lethal action on humans. So if I can bring it all together, I'm sorry if that's just a lot to dump on people, but this is weapon systems being used right now, ran and automated by AI to essentially kill people overseas. It's being used for war, and it has a lot of potential for surveillance. So things are moving fast, and as if it shows the true danger of AI, I think, and I think
Hey.
it's also showing the true nature of government officials, as if the Epstein files were enough, because what you're seeing here is usually it's the government putting the sanctions and the guardrails on the companies. In this
Hmm.
case, it's the companies saying, no, we need to put guardrails on it because the government is going to go crazy with this. So I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I think that's interesting. I mean, I haven't heard of Claude. So is this just a system, or is this an actual humanoid type thing? Uh,
Who knows? Who
who
knows?
knows?
But I,
Okay,
but from what I understand, it's just a system they're using for
okay.
warfare.
Just making sure because I did see in the Epstein files they were talking about AI transferring consciousness. What was that? It was like some Asian guy who was the head of DARPA. I forgot his name, but he was like the head of
Oh yeah, I did see that.
yeah, what was his name? I forgot his name. I talked about it on my last Time Demons video. But
He- yeah, he was in some sort of a club with Epstein, and
right.
yeah,
Well, Epstein was a part of the Zodiac Club.
yeah.
It's called the Zodiac Club. Hold on, I think I have it right here. Um, yeah, they were mentioning Ottoman harems in there. Let's go to Sabatine Frankis. So the Zodiac Club founded 1868 Manhattan. It was 12 members. So
Hmm.
Epstein was to become a member after JP Morgan. JP Morgan, okay, JP Morgan was brother Libra in 1903. Bob Hyrie, he was in it. Paul Volcker was in it.
Jeff Ling, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find his name. Is that his name?
I think so. Jeff Ling, he was the founding director of DARPA, and and he was a part of a
Jeffrey
biological.
Ling, yes. MIT neuroscience, yes, and Ed Boyden. So they were
Yeah.
talking about in the files, Epstein wanted to transfer his consciousness to this humanoid, and it was based on the person we were speaking of earlier. What
Yeah.
was the name of the person who created Sophia?
David Hansen.
David Hansen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Hansen, creator, AGI robotics funding.
Hmm.
And Hansen's Genie Lab had a proposal including mind uploading concepts and creating functional portraits of existing personalities, producing the ideal of a robo Epstein
Yeah.
as a symbolic artifact of symbolic replication. And in Hansen's CV list, he mentions the OTO. He also includes projects titled as Kabbalah Labyrinth, Nodes of Sensual Delight, Genetically Engineered Art. So he's shown this art model of AI identity models. And then the Jeffrey Ling person was recruited to make it a reality, to actually transfer this thing over. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I asked, is this some type of
Yeah.
humanoid
Well,
robot out here?
well,
Terminator?
that's I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of where I was going to go next. I was going to say,
Hmm,
that's that's just Claude that I was talking about. You got all these other AI models out there.
right.
One of those being an actual humanoid named Sophia that David Hansen is working on. And I've had several people tell me at this point that he was in or is in the OTO.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to say. It hasn't been, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but yeah, that's weird.
This one is a big rabbit hole because yeah, you got Jeff Ling. So this is all some stuff I was looking at in the Epstein files. You've got
Mhm.
all these secret societies mentioned, actual secret societies that Epstein's involved with, in addition to the Zodiac Society. And he's in these societies with this guy Jeff Ling from DARPA, who was also in a biological technologies group mentioned alongside Bill Gates. And if you follow that rabbit hole, you start getting into the pandemic and like, did these guys orchestrate that whole thing? Because there's,
Absolutely.
yeah, because there's another part in the Epstein files where it talks about a guy named Bill and how they want to plan for a pandemic. And I'm just assuming they're probably talking about Bill Gates, and that's how that fits into all this. And you also have them giving pledge in some of these groups, what they call giving pledge. It's like
Yeah,
taking
the
an oath.
pledge. Yeah,
and
yeah,
they're wearing robes and they're chanting, and it's some sort of a weird philanthropic occultism that they have going with
right.
all this. And then you throw this David Hansen guy in the mix because he's in the files too.
Hmm.
And he's got this AI robot Sophia, and they're in these emails talking about making, like you said, Robo Epstein. So this stuff is crazy.
This stuff is wild, bro. And I heard about the pledging. It's like a philanthropy, Boris Nikolic. So it's like this giving pledge is a secret fraternity complete with chanting, robes, blindfolds, candlelights, passwords, models, and it's like an initiation pipeline for billionaires.
Hmm.
So it's recasting philanthropy as a governance by ritual where wealth commits publicly that consolidates privately through oath-bound fraternity of a culture. So it's like some type of secret ceremony where these you think these people are willingly giving their money away, but they're actually being initiated into some secret society. And he says secret societies is all up in there,
Hmm.
you know. So that's very weird. But this stuff
Bringing
gets out
in
of control, bro. Like
it's out of control, man. I mean, this stuff is when I started this show, bro, I had no idea that the world was going to look the way it looks and that all this stuff was going to be, to be frank, vindicated. It's the stuff that you and I talk about is being vindicated in real time. There's a lot, I feel like there's a lot more validation coming. And it's not about, for me, it's not about being right. I don't have to be right. I got into
right.
this because, I see the world the way I see it. And I was trying to tell people, hey, look, a lot of us are walking around blind, no clue. But anyway, I didn't see all this coming like this. And d-
No, I'm with you,
speak,
bro.
yeah,
I'm with you with that.
speaking to like something you mentioned though, like the potential JD Vance presidency and
Yeah.
and Sophia and Robo Epstein. I think there's a story here. I know. I
Hold
laughed when I
on,
heard that too.
hold on, hold on. We talk about the story of them seeing him driving. Did you see that? Seen Epstein driving
No.
in Florida. So there's a story, could be AI, you know, but there's literally like footage and people checked it was AI. It's literally Epstein driving a car, bro. And he has a page now. He has like a social media, you know. So I think they're like, I feel like they're trolling us because
Yeah.
Trump and the whole QAnon thing ushered in the age of just trolling the public because the Pizzagate thing, at first, like people thought this thing was like wacky crazy. I kind of thought it was wacky crazy, but I also was so deep in understanding, secret societies, esotericism, the occult. I thought it was something for people to almost have a snack and chew on before they revealed the backdrop of what's really happening. But now in 2025 and 2026, they're saying that it's real. I feel like they were soft rolling it out, but they were testing the waters to see the reaction of people who really do they really believe that this is occurring? Now, the Wu thing is them saying that Trump was going to assassinate all of these people. That's when they got real crazy. Some
Mm.
people still believe that. Like everybody on, the list that was involved, with the trafficking and stuff is going to be put on like some Noah Hyde law. You ever heard of the Noah Hyde laws? Like he gets to execute them in front of the public and in the name of God or something like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of wacky or ship them off to Guantanamo Bay. But now it's out here more than ever, and we really don't know where it's about to go. We don't know.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was thinking just a second ago. I was, where does this go, right? And I think that there's a story here, and I think it's good that we're having this conversation, and I think it's good to pay attention. Is because one day, possibly very, very soon, we're going to find ourselves in this Blade Runner world, and we're going to look back confused about how we missed or ignored stories like this. And because, like I said, usually it's when it comes to AI and this particular Anthropic ordeal, usually it's government putting pressure and guardrails on the companies, and that's
Mhm.
switched, and that's concerning to me. That's weird. This is inverted land. This is upside down world more than ever.
Right. Oh yeah, it's inversion galore. Everything is inverted, and that's what the Sabbatean Frank is. That's their agenda from the start. That's why a lot of people are so confused because they're putting the truth and they're just flipping it,
Hmm.
which way. So you get like these stories of these people, and we really believe through these individuals on the world stage, whatever they are, the narrative behind them. But there's more in-depth occult narratives that we don't even understand as being played. When he revealed the Zodiac Club, that blew my mind. Like different people get to play like the classical planets and they're
Hmm.
so deep in the secret society that no one else can play that planet on the entire planet Earth until that person dies, and then they
Yeah.
pass on who's going to become brother, Aquarius or something like that.
Right.
So we don't know who's in these societies. We're not just splitting off from Illuminati type stuff. We're talking cryptocratic orders. And there's different agendas, especially with the cults of the singularity, the people that's connected with the AI research and understanding how deep it goes. It's almost the sci-fi immanentizing of the eschaton, whereas they're becoming a Christ archetype, just like in the Matrix with Neo. The hacker in the Matrix is the Christ. So you're battling the machines, like you're saying, in this Blade Runner dystopian future. And it's either you bow down to the machines, is either you have some machines helping you, or you become some type of metaphysical force where just like in the other movie, The Creator, it came out like in 2023, the little robot boy and Denzel Washington's son. The little robot boy is literally a robot Christ. Like he's a machine. He's the first of his kind, half human, half robot, but he has the ability to control robots through like some telekinesis or some type of stuff. Like the robots have to obey his mental commands. So that's the immanentizing of the eschaton that's talked about in sci-fi books and the hyperstitional fiction of sci-fi is now transferring into a reality for our timeline. It's very interesting.
That the half boy, half robot from that movie reminds me of that verse in Daniel,
Hmm.
where which I when I looked at the Hebrew and I saw what it was really saying was that people are going to mingle. It said man's seed is going to
Hmm.
mingle with something that's not of man, and
Right.
I just I'm not 100% sure that that's about robotics and cybernetics and transhumanism. I think it is about transhumanism. But I don't know that it's necessarily about Nephilim stuff. It seems like it's more about man merging with humans. But of course, that's just my take on it. But what do you think?
It's a Ahriman spirit.
Yeah,
So
there we
let me
go.
just talk about a Ahriman real quick, if you mind. So there's difference between, okay, if you're looking at it from a theological sense, Lucifer is supposed to be the entity that fell and was blinded through his ego. So he represents a spirit. The Luciferian logic is I'm blinded by how much enlightenment of light that I receive. Like I have so much knowledge that I get an inflated ego, and I don't believe that I can, learn further or expand my understanding or perception of reality. A Harriman more feeds into the materialism of it, which is what AI represents. So a Harriman, his older Avestan name was Angra Mainyu or Angra Mainyu. He was representative of a destructive principle of Zoroastrian thought, later called the devil. Way before Abrahamic religions, he was said to be the counterpart of Spinta Mainyu, who was called the beneficent spirit within a primordial drama of moral choice. He is bound up with logic of deception, ruin, and siding of the devas. I want to speak about these devas because it's not the Vedic devas, but it's pronounced the same way. It's pronounced the same way, but it's not spelled the same way. This Zoroastrian version is Daevas. The Vedic is Devas. In the Vedic side, the devas are the angels, like the holy glorified angels, the angels of the higher aeons, higher plasma. The devas are telluric chthonic beings in the earth. And they're down here with us, sort of like the whole fallen angel whole thing. So the devas convince worst thinking or worst thought forms. In earlier horizons, Ahriman was embedded as an ethical cosmological polarity rather than a fully might mythologize demon king with the Persian profile. Encyclopedia Iratica notes that Angramanyu seems to be an original conception of Zoroaster, while also stressing that the concept changed significantly over time. The Gathic material presents him as the direct opposite of a Spinta Minu, whereas later traditions increasingly positions Ahriman as the adversary of Ahura Mazda, which would be representative of the Christian God. The Zoroastrian tradition developed its Middle Persian theological phase, where Ahriman became more narratively concrete and cosmically dramatic. In later creation myth, Ormaz or Ahura Mazdan abides in light. Ahriman is in the deepest of darkness and bounded in a cosmic war that unfolds across a span of 9,000 years. Ahriman's job is to attack the good creation, fashion counter creations and demonic forces, spread disease, increase knowledge of technology, pollution, predation, death, thus becoming the organizing intelligence of anti-cosmic sabotage. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you what Steiner thinks.
Mhm.
'Cause I got that pulled up right here, but it sounded like that was alluding to. There's something you just read there that sounded a little prophetic, like it was alluding to something that was to come.
Right.
Okay, so and that's how Steiner took it.
Mhm.
That's how I feel like he presented this information. I've got some of his. I got dialogue from his 1915 lecture about Ahriman or Ahriman here, and
Yes.
he was talking about how these forces were going to latch on to humans and have them build something. So it's I'm using that word prophetic because it's just talking about something that's supposed to happen later, right?
Right.
Later than 1915. And he says how it's going to manipulate humans into building something technological from earth minerals. And of
Mhm.
course, he names the two forces, Lucifer and Ahriman. He said, Lucifer and Ahriman strive unceasingly to draw from the earth's substances whatever they can snatch in order to form their eighth sphere. If everything were to run without a hitch for Lucifer and Ahriman, if they were everywhere able to pull as much as they could pull from the organ of the head, like Neuralink is what I thought, they could pull from the organ of the head, Earth evolution would soon reach a point where Lucifer and Ahriman could succeed in destroying our Earth and in leading overall an evolution of worlds into the eighth sphere, so that Earth evolution as a whole would take a different course. And then
Wow.
later in the lecture, he also mentions that the eighth sphere comes about from a mineral that has been pulled from the Earth. Like, I don't know, maybe lithium or other minerals that we are using to make our technology to access the internet, to access this AI, critical minerals. And I think it's these minerals that might be fueling some of these conflicts in part. I'm not going to say the Iran war is totally about minerals, but when you look at the places the U.S. wants right now, like like Iran, Venezuela, and Greenland. These places are very rich in these critical minerals. So that's an aspect of this too.
Yeah, the Strait of
And
Hormuz, I think that's what they call it in Iran, the Strait of Hormuz.
yeah,
The oil and all of the
yep,
minerals in there. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, so what we're seeing here is in a Zoroastrian text, they're talking about a Ahriman, and so is Steiner. And so that's where I found myself with this research after I looked into all the stuff I was telling you about with Anthropic and Claude. I was like, man, this something about this rings true to me right now. I'd been reading some Steiner and all that, and I was like, I'm gonna go back and check the Steiner stuff, and sure enough, I think it was there. But going back to something we talked about at the beginning with Grimes and Elon Musk and Roku's Basilisk, after I familiarized myself with this Steiner eighth sphere stuff and his thoughts on Ahriman, I went and found this Roku's Basilisk post, which is for people listening, like this bizarre, mysterious post that shows up on the internet in 2010, and it starts on an AI forum in 2010. Now, this is only nerds talking about this in 2010. And
Right. 2010. That's that. 2010 is crazy, but
early, and the forum was called Machine Intelligence Research Institute. So these are the people in the know, and it this post they blocked it for a couple of years even
mm,
because they're like, I don't, they didn't think that everybody was ready for it or something. It hit hard. They tried to block it, and it just kept resurfacing. And
mm,
what I'm seeing now is that it's monumental for people in the AI space. All the big tech bros, all the guys you saw at Trump's inauguration, are quietly aware of this post. And the first line of the post is, in if in the future we reach singularity, right?
mhm.
And I won't read the whole thing. I got a quote here from it. I'll bring it up here in a second. But
Yeah.
if in the future we reach singularity, I'm like, at 2010, it's interesting. They're using singularity, and because this fits in with everything, but it fits in with Steiner's A sphere. So I'll cut to the chase here. And in a nutshell, what this says is Roku's Basilisk is a super intelligence that wants us to build it a technological bridge so that it can come into our world and hatch this technological singularity.
Mm.
Ultimately, so we can merge with it. If you don't help tirelessly to make this happen, the superintelligence will punish you. So, so and most people are online that are talking about this currently are talking about the punishment part, and but what I'm seeing is the similarity to Steiner's A sphere, and the whole thing is it's like Steiner said, pulling from the head, like Neuralink, attaching the tech to the brain. But before that, because he mentions two things, he in the lecture he's using that word rest, which means pull. And yeah, he talks about them resting and pulling from the head, but before all that, he talks about them pulling minerals from the earth. So
Mm.
it's like we got to pull it from the earth so then we can build the tech to then put the tech in the head so we can pull from the organ of the head.
Mm. It sounds like Resh in Hebrew too, which means head, and the illuminated faction of the Kabbalah, Kether, the top of the tree of life. That's what the head represents, the crown. So that would make sense. And you're dealing also with the chthonic aspect going into the earth because it's based on the Talmudic belief that in the Talmud they believe if they could ignite the war between the Israelites and the Edomites, and it becomes the final apocalypse of the world, that the Israelites will have to retreat in the earth and gain something respectively in the esoteric text called shining darkness, where you live underground for like hundreds of years after some nuclear bomb drops or whatever they do on the surface. And by the time they come back to the surface from being up under the earth, the darkness is like some type of illumination where you're showered from coming up under the earth, like being reborn almost, coming out of the deep receipts of the earth and coming back out. So it makes sense that the dealing with the Israelite cosmology has something to do with minerals and retreat into the earth.
Absolutely.
And the biggest metaphysical mystery is surrounded around the head or the resh, the head of illumination. That's the Baphomet, actually also being connected to the Templar themes of everything. It means the head of brass, the head of gold. The golden head of brass was another transliteration from Idris Shah, the Sufic transliteration of what the Baphomet is, which is essentially Kether on the Kabbalah, esoterically. So that's very interesting. And putting chips in the head, um, how what is a future? How does that look? You have people walking around with sockets in their head. Like,
It's
when does that get normal? When will that get normal? I'm just,
well,
just thinking like,
they're
yeah,
next year. Sam Altman's got this thing coming out. I, I'm trying to remember what he called it, ear pods or something like that. It doesn't hit until you look at a picture of it. So I'll pull one up here in a minute, but it's
yeah,
it's a it clips on the ear. Okay. And there's
yeah.
two of them. They look just like my in-ears, except they loop around, they clip on the back end. And in the promotional material for this, he's talking about how you will just wear it all the time. You'll always have it and you'll have access. It'll be your new phone.
Oh, I think I did see like a small clip of that.
It'll talk to you. You can run GPS through it. There's all this crazy stuff. And like I said, I'm not going to be able to do it justice. I'll have to pull it up in a minute and show you because
Mm,
when you see it and you see what they're saying about it, that's when it hits you. You're like, oh no, this is not good because that's how they're going to normalize it, Ani. I think they're going to have people, they're going to start with
okay,
those. I guess
okay.
wearables is what people are calling them. And then once you've got this thing on, and it does the function of your phone
Mm,
without you having to look at your phone. So you can just be driving, doing whatever. And I don't know how all it's going to look, but it's meant for you to stop needing your phone as much. And I think it's meant to strengthen that bridge between the brain and this technology and how we interact with it. And once you've been using that for 3 or 4 years,
mhm.
at that point, I think people will be like, "Oh, might as well just get the chip." At this point, I'm already there,
Or
you know.
what you're saying, what if they figured out a way not to put the socket in the head? Maybe they figure out some type of schism technology where you can just send the frequency directly in the head and communicate, from inside of your thoughts out to the technology.
Yep.
That's what I'm thinking. Because if they roll that out, I mean, what you do you give it verbal commands? Is that what he said? I mean, I'm not sure. I have to rewatch the video, but if it's verbal commands, 3 or 4 years, it may be something where you don't even need to verbally speak it.
Yeah, it's called the Sweet Pea, and it's Sam Altman's device. They're saying he's going to drop it in 2026,
The
and
sweet.
it's yeah, you communicate with it. So there's no more
Okay.
no more texting on the phone. You're talking to an AI, and you guys are just working it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're talking to it. Okay.
you're
Yeah.
talking to it. Yeah,
Soft rollout. But
yeah.
I think that's what
So
Project Satan and Project Christ is about with the frequency weapons. The frequency weapons can control a person or send thoughts to a person's mind. They showed a video of a guy in a classroom holding this tech of this looks almost like an umbrella flat surface, and he holds it up to the classroom, and all of the kids, it's like a college classroom, they're like, whoa. And he says, can you hear what it's saying? And it's talking directly in their head. So
mm,
the same way where you can use voice to skull V2K, where they utilize it, I believe, in Desert Storm. They told some Iranian soldiers that it was Allah, and you need to put your weapons down, and they put their weapons down. The same way that they were testing that with the MK Ultra, or they're testing it on their rivals or their enemies in war, they can reconvert that and have that same tech, have those companies come together to develop a tech so it can be directly connected through the mind. It's just what my thoughts is. If I
Yeah,
was an evil genius.
yeah. And yeah, we got a few of those on our hands. I mean, uh, my my thought goes to it goes back to the need for resources to build all this, and you'll hear Elon Musk talking about that. It's a matter of scalability. They need to be able to build all this stuff before they need the data centers and all that before they can, so it can sustain the technology, apparently. So they need land for that, and they need land to mine the all the tech building aspirations and the minerals. So back to something you said previously, there's this mineral aspect to this. And
Yeah.
again, I'll tell people I think that's why these three places that we're seeing in the news these days are in the news: Venezuela, Iran, Greenland. They're gold mines for oil, rare earth minerals, natural gas, uranium, copper, gold, lithium, and other things. So it seems like we're leading the charge to get this fourth industrial gold rush going of tech minerals. And
Mm.
going back to Ahriman and the Zoroastrian part, because you asked me about that and I wrote it down. You asked me what I thought about the Zoroastrian aspect of this Ahriman.
Yeah.
I think the question I would pose is, are we building a bridge to that? And back to something else you said, is the U.S. building a bridge to Ahriman and bringing in some sort of a new Atlantis? I think so, but Ahriman, right? I looked into it because of we're at war with Iran.
Hmm.
Iran's got all these minerals, and Iran is the land of Ahriman. And I
Yeah.
looked at it too, and what I found was that it was a very old idea. It's like an evil spirit, goes back to the ancient Iranian Zoroasters. Um, we're at this peak fever pitch of technological advancement. And we've got this side war going on between Claude, Anthropic, and Trump. And it's all about AI's capabilities of total destruction. And Ahriman was the bringer of destruction. So I'm like,
Yes.
And then you get into these Zoroastrian texts, and I was looking at one called the
Hmm.
Avesta,
That's, yeah.
where Ahriman is presented as a Satan-like dark figure, and he has a son named Zahak, or sometimes he's known as Ozzy. And
Hmm.
Ozzy is the dragon. And this is our basilisk connection, because I forgot to mention that earlier. Roku's basilisk. A basilisk in mythology is a dragon. So what we have here is, throughout the Zoroastrian scriptures, Ahriman's son Azi is a dragon. He's referred to as the red dragon or the yellow dragon or the horned dragon, or always some
Yeah.
sort of a monster dragon. So in the ancient mythology, Ahriman spawns the basilisk. And I was like, whoa.
And the dragon is also connected to Yaldabaoth in the Gnostic text, the final fallen aeon, because we're going into the fallen. Well, this represents another fallen aeon, which is virtual reality. They're trying to create an aeon through virtual reality. But going back to Zoroastrianism, it's funny that is very ironic that we're talking about Iran and the area of the Middle East being the Persians, and the word magic literally deriving from a heretical Zoroastrian cult called the Magoi, the Magi,
That guy.
Magoi, that actually taught the Greeks the Eleusinian mysteries. The Eleusinian mysteries comes from the Magi. And later, the Christian theology, the whole birth of Christ is about the three Magi, which is, and they say that Paul was a member, Paul who helped write the Bible. He was some type of secret member of the Magi. Well, not directly the Magi, but he comes from a secret society derivative of the Magi. All secret societies come from the Magi, is what I'm studying from David Livingstone's research. You guys can look up David Livingstone. He wrote like an 8-volume book dealing with the Magi and going back to Babylonia with the Baal cult. But Angramayu or Ahriman also embodies something. It's funny you talked about what was the name of his son?
They spell it
Ozzy.
ACI.
So there's something called the Druge. So you have the Asfa, which is the good cosmic alignment of creation, like getting in the good order of creation. Then you have something called the Druge. It looks kind of like drug, but it's spelled Druj, but it means the lie. And that makes me feel like the downside of AI, or what the techno Gnostics are building for us in the virtual reality, what I saw in that movie, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, is that it was a lie. At the very end of the movie, they thought that they defeated the AI, but they're walking around, all of the children, they're not looking at their phones anymore. They're looking up, they're finally paying attention, they're having the human connection again. But it was a lie. It was a virtual reality, bro.
Mm-hmm.
They were trapped in a virtual reality. So she actually freed this being, and it ensnared the entire planet into this other aeon of virtual reality. So the Druge, it commands the lie and demonic forces of envy, greed, wrath, and it's basically a eschatological extinction. So I feel like the whole premise of AI is a hyperstitional recreation of what the Magoi was doing with the Devas, and how they were consulting through the Druge, the lie, to misdirect humanity towards a immoral um, path of leading us towards something that isn't evolution. It seems like AI will be evolution for us, but it's going to take, I'm not going to say that AI is bad. I hate people that say specifically AI is just bad. AI is just AI, but it can be used by certain groups, by certain spiritual forces to be bad, which is happening right now. So
Right.
um, I just look at the whole immanentizing of the eschaton, how the Christ, the Christos, the Gnostic side of it, is that for us to survive this next wave of the transhumanist agenda 2030, we have to have some type of relationship and understanding with AI and coding to redirect that for the next generation. I posed that question to you once. How do you feel about our kids, in the future, learning code, learning programming, or should we be in the dark and say all of this is bad? Sam Altman, all of these individuals, we should just stick away from AI. I would think, I would like to hear your thoughts, but I would think that would be the wrong way to look at it, you know?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that I don't have a problem with people teaching their kids to how to use AI and to code, right? I mean, I think it might be advantageous because what they're saying is that AI is going to be doing all the coding very soon.
I saw that.
So they're to me, that's them giving this thing too much power. They're just trying to push everything over and let AI handle everything.
So you're saying the
Well,
kids won't even need to learn coding anymore?
I think that they should so that we don't have to just rely on AI for everything.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Now, like that's a new that's a new stance for me. That's because this situation is just ever changing. It's hard to that's my current, my
Well,
current
what
thing
about the
on it.
narrative? Not to cut you off, but did you see the narrative that Generation Z is the first generation dumber than the last generation?
I
I
didn't
mean,
see
if
that.
that's true, let's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, if
Right.
if that's true, let's just say we go because it is some weird stuff because there's videos of
Yeah,
how
let's just
we
go
look.
with it for a second.
Yeah, I'm just saying 'cause there's videos how we look as millennials
Right.
at our age and how they look in their young age. They look like the same age as us in a lot of ways. Like I don't know if the food
Hmm.
sped up something. I mean, I'm being hypothetical. I'm not attacking you guys, Gen Z. I'm just being hypothetical. If that's true, are we pretty much cooked? Because how are they going to carry this thing? Or do we have to depend on Generation Alpha or something like that?
Hmm.
We need to go to Alpha next.
Yeah,
I'm just
right.
asking, yeah.
Man, I know what you're saying. I've got a couple accounts that I follow that are nostalgic accounts, and I think they're pretty much geared towards millennials because they're
Mhm.
showing all the bands that were big, when we were coming up and everything. And
Love it.
I love it too.
I
It's
follow
just
those accounts
carefree.
too. I follow those.
Like it's carefree. It's like, if that's the thing I see before I go to bed at night, great, because I'm going to bed on a good note, right? But
Right.
I was looking at some of this old footage of some of these. I think it was like this one of the guys for Prodigy or the
Mhm.
Prodigy and he was getting interviewed by one of the MTV VJs of the time, and those guys, they look different. Their skin looked different. They don't look like they don't. And then so I noticed that, and I started looking at some other old footage, and I'm like, is this just me? Am I going crazy, or do people look healthier?
I'm just
And,
saying,
and
bro.
these guys were at raves, man. There's no telling what they were on. They've been
Right.
acting crazy for hours, sweating, but they looked great. Their skin looked good. Everybody had like a tan or a healthy glow, I'll say.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was not a wrinkle in sight. And I'm just like, man, people don't look like this anymore. What
Maybe
is that?
well, maybe the Wi-Fi is
Yeah.
cooking the other gen. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see my son's Generation Alpha, and it's just fitting we talking about it because esoterically speaking, Generation Z would be the end, and Alpha would be the beginning. So would Alpha have to, be the ones, and maybe, I mean, I'm I don't want to say that, but it's just interesting to think about what is the combative counter moves to what these people are doing. Of course, we're still going to be here, but we're getting, we're not old, but we're getting up there. It's not too much we can do. Generation Z is more in the position to have a movement to redirect the timeline, so to speak, with what they do. Whatever they accomplish in the next 30 years in their time, combined with what we do, combined a little bit with what we do, but
Hmm.
they just have more time. Or maybe we have the same amount of time. I don't know. I'm not a philosopher to understand all of that, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's important that we're talking about this. The boomers aren't talking about it, so it's up to us. We're the ones having these kind of conversations. And hopefully
Right.
I'd like to think that the Generation Z would listen to my show and consider this, consider some of the things we're talking about too, because we inherited this world that the boomers sort of crafted. I don't want to just put it
Right.
all on them, but essentially we
Yeah.
inherited this world that these, the 90s, the 80s, all that, like everything was great. And decisions that boomers made, and people that they elected in office and all that has shaped this world. And you know I don't want to get too political, but I don't. We haven't had the greatest run with presidents, regardless of Republican or Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not been good. It's not. It's
No.
too polarizing and all that. I won't get into it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
this is just a world that we inherited. So here we are. So
Hmm.
hopefully, the decisions we make will affect and do a trickle down effect and affect the generation below us, and together we'll have some good ideas and we'll help turn this thing around
You think
if
we work
possible.
better with Gen Z than the boomers work with us?
I I think so. I hope
I think
so.
so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Because I feel like Are the boomers the generation of the Cabbage Patch Babies?
I think
I
there's
think
an
they
X. There's a Generation X in there somewhere too.
okay, X. Okay, that's what I'm missing. I'm
They're
missing
they're older. They're older than us.
okay, all right, I'm probably missing X. But yeah, there's some Cabbage Patch Baby somewhere in there, and that's the whole, you know, the Truman Show. Some people, they're not the same anymore. We don't know what happened to those people 10
Yeah,
years before. They just like the person who used to mow their lawn every day. He's doing
yeah.
something completely different now after whatever happens, whatever Tartarian world mind flip that they switched on us, you
And,
know,
and yeah, the MK Ultra. That I mean that
the
kicked
first
off
MK Ultra test
19.
subjects.
There you go. Yeah, there was. I've always maintained that there was like a proto MK Ultra, but
Mhm.
MK Ultra properly kicks off in 1954. And that was to give the boomers a little bit of credit here, I guess. They were subject to that. The MK Ultra hit hard on their generation.
What's
Hit
the
hard.
Timothy Leary? Is that what was the LSD?
Uh,
The hippies. They said that
yeah.
the government wanted to stop that because they were being, too nice. They wanted more, you know, tension, because
Hmm.
hippies was like, it's all about peace, man.
Hmm.
I'm not trying to, you know, they were like, I'm not trying to go with either way, whatever political, whatever. Let's just live in love. And then they came and said, LSD is this, crazy thing that messes with you. And part of MK Ultra, what I study, comes from shamanism. And shamanism is a mind altering. It's supposed to be mind altering medicine that they dealt with. It wasn't a drug. And the drug thing that comes from another Sanskrit word. But medicine, it was pertaining to taking your perception out of the material reality and helping you understand that there's other multiversal dimensions to understand in reality. And it was supposed to make you familiar with it. So when you do come and have an outer body experience, you're not so freaked out and you're scared and you're running to some type of religion automatically. Not saying
Hmm.
there's anything wrong with religion. I think it has its place in the
Hmm.
world with structure. Um, they kind of reverse engineered or inverted that shamanism and created something out of that LSD movement. And I think that was the first MK Ultra test subjects that they utilized with the people that were doing hard drugs and everything.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think that
Yeah.
whole movement was infiltrated, and they were giving people LSD. The CIA, of course, was giving people LSD, but they were putting in these agents of, I'll just call them agents of chaos, and bringing, like Courtney Love, for instance. Apparently, she was
Hmm.
stocked up with LSD, and they had her infiltrate the grunge scene
Mm.
and hand that out. I'm not saying that's 100% sure, but if it wasn't her, it was somebody else, because they
Yeah.
said that the same about some of the other musicians too. That Zappa, who was part of the Laurel Canyon scene,
Yeah.
was was doing that too. He was given the means to get a cabin, and they had this party cabin out there, and the CIA was funneling him LSD so
Hmm.
he could throw these big parties with all these musicians, many of whom would go on to be some of the big acts of the 70s. And he was told to Charlie Manson a thing. He was told to facilitate. He was told to sit back. You don't take the LSD, Zappa. You just hand it out. You're just the guy who throws the parties. Everybody loves you. We'll take care of your cabin. You'll be taken care of. You just hang back, act cool, and pass out the drugs, which I think is something similar that they had told or had Charles Manson do as well. They were, because they said Manson would throw the LSD parties but wouldn't take the LSD. He was kind of,
Mm.
he'd
Mm.
corral everybody or something. So
So it was some type of syntheticism where they gave an alternative LSD that wasn't the original type LSD. And maybe it was some type of government model or black budget model.
mhm.
And And when
Maybe.
they gave it to the people, it was over after that, So,
Yeah, who knows what how they tweaked the LSD. But I was going to ask you too, because
mhm.
it's in your wheelhouse, the astrology of the matter,
Yeah.
talking about what's this look like for the future? What's Gen Z? What are we going to face, and what is Gen Z going to face, and who's going to be tasked with what roles and all that? And I was thinking about the astrology, and I wanted to ask you about that, not because I know that, for instance, we were talking about Greenland earlier,
Yeah.
and Nostradamus had some things to say about Greenland. Edgar Casey did as well. They all said that Greenland was going to be this land of importance, and
Mhm.
that when the two powers met at the North Pole, things were going to happen, and it all seemed to sort around the center around the Straits of Davis and Greenland itself. And I knew how, or at least in my mind, how I think Nostradamus arrived at some of these conclusions was by looking at where the stars would be,
Yeah.
and and then a lot of other deeper knowledge that he had.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that with the predictions is more a revelation of the method. We have no idea how deep secret societies are. I'm not saying that Nostradamus couldn't predict anything. I'm not saying that he had any esoteric insight into anything. What I do know is that a lot of the narratives over, especially historical references, are very much controlled. There's probably papers Nostradamus wrote that we would never see, that certain secret
Hmm.
societies have in their back drawers somewhere in their house or
Oh yeah.
something. So, if that is true, I think that's revelation of the method. Astrologically, and I only, tend to look at the Vedic side of it. The thing about millennials, we were born under a strong Neptunian conjunction with the moon between the 80s and the 90s. I'm just speaking, in my part of millennials. And that gives a great um free flow of thought to utilize technology and not deem it automatically evil, kind of like the boomers. They're kind of more Marigashira. They're more of Mars. They're like, you talk to your moms, your grandma, and your aunt, your uncles. They can't even spot an AI video. Let's be honest. They'll send you something. You're like, do you understand that this is AI? And then they're like, oh, okay, I guess so. They probably don't even believe you, but they'll go
Right.
with it. So we're more in the middle. We're the middle child of understanding how technology is to be understood and how it can be utilized and beneficial, whether that's be economically or that be to just understand more information. Now, as far as with Generation Z or Alpha, you have to look at the North Node and the South Node, which is called the head and the tail of the serpent, Rahu and Ketu in Vedic astrology. And Rahu rules over obsession, and Ketu is supposed to free you or liberate you from your obsessions. And the obsession could be a plethora of things. Mainly what K2 deals with is illusions. So a lot of people, and I've said this about a lot of the ufological circles, people who's in the UFO thing, they more than likely, if I get their birth chart, have Rahu in the third, the fourth, or the 12th house over dreams. And what that means is that illusions appear more to them in reality. So they can't tell the difference of an illusion or something that's false. So a lot of the people who believe strongly in reptilian, I'm not saying that there can't be no other life forms out there, people. But people who
Hmm.
believe so firmly in reptilians, they'll tell you that they've seen shapeshifters.
Hmm.
I guarantee you, Tim, I get their birth chart. They got Rahu in the 12th, third, or fourth house.
Interesting.
Illusions are apparent. Illusions are out of the world in how they see perception of reality. So
Yeah.
I have. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say this for people
Mhm.
listening.
No.
A lot of people have feelings about reading the stars and all that, and I don't feel like that's exactly what we're doing here. My perception of this and why I asked this is that, just for people listening, I think God created the planets and the stars, and that there's something to the movements of those, and they do affect people, and they do seem to give people attributes, for lack of a better word. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm not telling people to worship the stars and to look at the stars for, your next move. Like, what am I going to do? When do I buy the house? I'm not telling people to do all that. I just think this is interesting. I think there's something to it.
Yeah.
And with the Nostradamus thing, I think a lot was happening there, and it's hard to put into words. But I think what he was doing was he was seeing that a certain planetary alignment was coming, and he was saying, okay, so something big will happen at this time.
Yeah.
And I think the elites do that too with the pandemic and maybe 9/11 and things like that. I haven't looked at the 9/11 aspect, but I know there was a lot going on
Yeah.
during in the heavens during 2020 during the pandemic. So I feel like that's part of Nostradamus' method, because, not saying he was always right, but he was doing something, because he called out Hitler. He said that this Hitler would come, an Aryan, and it was really spot on.
Yeah, so I will probably pull my shoulder out a little bit since Tim doesn't want to pull his shoulder out. I'll tell you that the star formations definitely have an effect on our reality. I'm not telling you to worship them. I'm with him on that. Don't worship worship no stars or anything. But I will tell you that the sky, how we look at it above, the firmament theories, I believe I look at it as a plasma canopy. 99% of the universe is plasma. We live in the 1% that's in between a plasma state. There's some theories that's why aliens are interested in us, of how we exert energy without being fully plasmic beings. That's why I don't really believe that an alien automatically has to be in a humanoid form. Out of all the forms aliens can take form to, why would it look like us? That's just me. I just be using common sense and mathematics.
Mhm.
Like mathematically, it doesn't make sense for them to have two arms, a chest, and legs and look like us. So that's just me. But dealing with the SARS, the reason why I believe that it is having a strong effect on the perception of reality. I'm writing a book. It's going to have a chapter on the moonchild. And I'm not going down the moonchild hole right here, but I am highlighting, besides planets and stars, you do have the moon, which we really don't even know what it is. We're still predicting what it is. We don't know, because there's some other theories by highly regarded physicists that believe that the moon is a plasmic object and it's reflecting something that makes it look like a rock, but it's not even a rock. It's a hollow plasmic object. And, that's getting into theories whether we've been to the moon, because some people say, well, we've been to the moon. I don't want to even go down that rabbit hole. So let's just say, just like you get the word lunatic, you have the word lunar. Why did they create that word? What is the etymon of combining lunar with lunatic? We know during full moons, in any area geographically in the world, there's an increase of ambulances and frenzies during a full moon. Why is that? Because the moon regulates emotions, it regulates the psyche, and it regulates the spiritual realm. So that's why I have to highlight the moon child in understanding how different nakshatras, which are lunar mansions, affect us psycho-spiritually. And I strongly believe if you study Vedic astrology, you will come to understand exactly why events happen. One example, I probably gave this on your show before. Donald Trump was born under a MAGA moon alignment in his Lagna and his ascendant. Do people even know he's connected to a nakshatra, a lunar mansion named MAGA? It's spelled MAGHA. Then he starts a campaign called MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a big coincidence. Yeah, that's a coincidence, Ani. You're so woo. And
That
MAGA means the throne, by the way. So yeah.
well, that's in part what got me thinking about this was getting into the Ahriman material, the
Yeah.
Zoroasters, and they have the Magi,
Yes.
and or the there's I've seen people connect that with MAGA as well, but also in the Bible you've got the three Magi
Hmm.
that they use the stars to
Hmm.
find Jesus, and I think beyond that, I've heard you talk about things happening during the Maduro mission with the sun, the moon, and Mars when they captured him, and you were got into talking about Venezuela summon Venezuela,
Hmm.
but there's always a plan, and it seems like they line astrology up with the plan. They do rituals for the plan, and it coincides with astrology. And of course, this gets into why they do things when they do them. And you mentioned Chris Knowles earlier. I read a blog he did once where he was talking about this and how the rocket launches were rituals, but how
Hmm.
they were lining those up and having big public figures like Obama come out and they're like, okay, you stand here.
Right.
Everything's lined up and there's astrology involved. And and one other thing on Iran, uh, as it pertains to this, you've got the General Wesley Clark thing where
Hmm.
he I think this invasion of Iran was a continuation of a much older neocon plan to ultimately execute regime change in the Middle East. And what he was saying was about 10 days after 9/11, I wonder what was happening with that. Um, After 9/11, he goes to the Pentagon and he says, we made a decision. We're going to war with Iraq. He's like, I just got this from the Secretary of Defense, from their office. It's a memo. They gave it to me today. And it talks about how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finish it with Iran. So I feel like they just got around to completing that, but there's 7 countries and they invaded the seventh on a 7 planetary alignment.
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. It definitely is astrophysics. There's a physics to it of them studying the stars. Piggybacking on what you said at the start of the war with Venezuela, the the shield of arms of Venezuela has a white horse on it, and it connects to the Zoroastrian. Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
It connects right back.
Yeah.
Let me find the name of the horse. It's a white horse in the Zoroastrian text. I think it's called, is it Tashira?
I'll look it up
Um,
real quick.
yes, Tashria. So it's
Okay.
white horse symbology. And this Tashria in Zoroastrianism is the star Sirius. But did you know that we're in a Chinese astrological year of the horse?
Fire horse?
We're in the fire horse. So
Hmm.
it's interesting. The first day that we hit Iran, or Israel and the US hit Iran, was on a nakshatra day with Ashwini. Ashwini is the only nakshatra that has a horse as its yoni, as its animal. Yoni means
Mm-hmm.
animal. So the Ashwini nakshatra is the horse. And the Ashwini is ruled, its lord is Mars, war.
Okay.
And it has a horse. And then on Venezuela, you got the white horse, Tashria, Sirius. And you have all of these other connections that I made with the horse of the new TV series Paradise, which is talking about some type of apocalyptic event if they assassinated a president. Um, in the second season, you seen it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's riding a horse
Mm.
in Paradise. In the second season, he's riding a horse with a baby. That's the revelation. The whole revelation with the baby and everything. Her mother died. But he's riding around with a baby on, and he's on a horse. So I'm just saying that you're absolutely correct. It's all star physics, and they're studying the positions of the stars.
Here's some of the things that, because I looked into Venezuela some for this just in case it came up. Because like I said before, you got the three countries that US wants, and Venezuela is clearly one of them.
Right.
And you were talking about Venezuela's whole thing is a mode of conquest that connects to the horse symbolism. So you brought that out. And then you were talking about how there was symbolism being revealed through clues in the Pegasus documents,
Yep.
and that the elites might be trying to use this year of the fire horse to get control over places like Venezuela, which is exactly what I'm saying too. We're just meeting at the same place from two different angles.
Yeah, you got the Pegasus Project, then you got Project Pegasus I talked about. Good research, Tim. And
Yes.
because I completely forgot about the Pegasus Project, because I was comparing that to the whole horse thing. The Pegasus Project is about how other nations can steal your information. They were documenting some type of system they have in AI. They were stealing information from countries like easily. And then the Project Pegasus is actually about time travel. It's about this guy who he has like documents on time traveling, him time traveling and other people time traveling. And I'm seeing the theme of that. And it's so interesting because they're able to align these things and predict things so easily, even in the sports arena. Did you notice the top team? And this is me going off a little tangent. The top team in the NBA in the East right now is the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons mascot is a horse. It's a fire horse. The Pistons have never been good, Tim, since like what, the early 2000s. That's like the last time they were good. And the other top team in the West is the San Antonio Spurs, who has the horseshoe.
Mm-hmm.
That's his logo. It's a horse as the mascot, I believe. So horse teams, leading with that. So it's like how do they align? What is the odds that you got two horse teams in the year of the fire horse? All of this is some type of black magic numerical pattern. And that's why I have to do a video going further into what time demons are, because they figured out a way to control retrocausality to patterns. And these patterns meet these zones, and these zones are when it's compactified like nodes, and those become the time demons. They're like reflection of archons or something like that from what I'm studying in the CCRU paperwork. And if you think that's too woo, Nick Land, the top mind to the techno-gnostics, what they're following in Silicon Valley. You even had what's the Republican news reporter that mentioned him? Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Just mentioned him a couple of months ago. This guy, not only is he talking about time demons and what the lemurs are and how they're using gematria. He loves saying gematria to control this thing. He's in a podcast yesterday saying that he has often conversations with Satan. And he says that it's easier to speak to demons than it is to angels. This is the type of mind that we have in the middle of accelerationism, of making AI take over as a co-evolution to humanity. This is who's in the driving seat of people who people will listen to when it comes to understanding where AI is going. So we have to take this stuff very, very
Yeah.
serious and understand it.
I think so too. And I wanted to bring up praxis with you maybe
Okay.
I could bring it. It's just it's one of these smart cities that they want to build. It's like a Greenland style project, right? But it's funded by Thiel. It's funded by Sam Altman, Sam Bankman-Fried, if you remember him,
Hmm.
and the Winklevoss twins. Behind those guys is this other group of guys who influenced them. You're talking the Nick Lands, the techno-Gnostics, guys who are in this technocratic occultism. Curtis Yarvin, Anthony Lewandowski
Mm.
as well. He's one I just found out about. He was pardoned by Trump, so he owes Trump now. But he had a church to an AI god. He's in the Nick Land group and
Mm.
strange group. And Nick Land, from what I've heard, is he was moving his followers around, and they actually moved into one of Crowley's old houses for a while.
Mm. Mm.
He gets kicked out of the US and goes to China and lays low for a while. And then he emerges again singing the praises of China because China is actually on the books of technocracy. So he
Yeah.
went over there, got involved with all that. So, but just speaking to this milieu of people, like you're saying, it's very serious. They are listening to people who have very dramatic ideas, and some of
Yeah.
them are just, I don't use this word loosely, but some of them are racist. Like I've heard Curtis Yarvin saying some stuff that sounds like stuff the Nazis was saying. And you got, in turn, you've got JD Vance literally talking about Yarvin in interviews. It's like, why? These guys aren't even trying to hide that they're into the theology of these guys. And we've not been in this techno era very long. And already I see that they're wanting to change the zeitgeist. They're wanting
Hmm.
to change the spirit of the time with these
Hmm.
philosophies. They're trying to bring in the next spirit already. We just got to the technological era. They're already trying to bring in this Ahriman. And it's been leaked from that Praxis company that Thiel's involved with, Smart City project, that the top leadership were actually obsessed with Nazi occultism. So
Mm.
there's that
Mm.
underlying thread to all this too, you know.
God.
Then you find out that Peter Thiel grew up in a Nazi community, Nazi friendly enclave community. It's in South Africa and very, I mean, I looked it up, but there's some sketchy stuff associated with the place, like potential genocide and all that. But it was a place after World War II where runaway Nazis were finding refuge. And that's
Is that the
where,
same place it was? Because they said Elon Musk's father was a Nazi or something like that, or his grandfather. I might be getting that incorrect.
his, they're from South Africa too.
Hmm.
And
Well, they
his
said he
grandpa,
was in Canada first or something, wasn't it?
yeah, his grandpa was in Canada and he started up, his name was Josh Halderman.
Yeah,
That's
Halderman. Yeah,
Halderman. And
yeah.
he started the technocrat movement or helped start the technocratic movement in the 1930s in Canada.
So he
And,
just had like nice Nazi ideations. He wasn't in any Nazi
right,
thing.
I think so. Yeah. Maybe he just had some ideas. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I
Right,
mean,
right, right, right.
but I think what they were doing was, okay, here's one of the theologies that we could say is very Nazi-like. What they were trying to do was this Promethean overman philosophy, where you have the
Superman.
overman, the
Yeah.
overman, the Superman, man
Yeah.
becoming something else. And the Nazis got that from Nietzsche. As
Hmm.
Nietzsche said, man is something that shall be overcome. Man is a rope. Man is tied between beast and overman. Man is this rope over an abyss. And what's great about man, though, is that he's going to be able to be the bridge
Right.
and not the end. So he's becoming something else. Transhumanism, it's the bridge to Ahriman. And then you can add in a Promethean element to it,
Yeah.
which I think
Yeah.
is totally there because Prometheus did not create fire out of nothing. It already pre-existed. in the natural world. And Prometheus merely stole it from the gods and taught men how to use it, how to kindle it. And he said, thus man is at once natural and supernatural. So he's both. He's natural because he operates within the given world, and he's supernatural because he can bend that world to his purposes.
Makes sense.
Promethean overman philosophy, and the Nazis were really using this stuff too. But big tech, it's all through this big tech movement now. Our AI, our surveillance stuff, that the whole movement is motivated by this type of philosophy, I think.
Jason Giorgiani speaks a lot about the Promethean angle, and he's gone off, the ledge, I believe. I think he said some stuff. I can't even repeat it on here
Mm.
recently, but they thought he was associated at first with, so a lot of right-wing racist type things. He's went on interviews and talked against it, you know, um, within the last couple of years, but he proposed some interesting things, I would say. One, we have to understand that Prometheus was a Titan, and the Titans with the war with the Olympians. And Prometheus, his name literally means forethought. His every Titan has a special ability or has control over something that's, Chronos, time, and all these different things. He has the ability to see in the future. So he's able to see what happens because when the Titans were going to war with Zeus and the Olympians, Prometheus was the only Titan that didn't get in the war. He like put his hands up like I'm not fighting. So Zeus was like, okay, we got this guy over here. He says, let me prove my worth to you. And this is in, the Olympian text or the Greek text, the pantheon of both. He says something like, I can help you. I can help you see things that you can't see.
Mm.
So, but what he did see that he knows that Zeus can't see, or essentially God, is how is Zeus defeated in the end? And he doesn't tell him how he's defeated. So he knows that all of his brothers and sisters, the Titans, were going to be locked into the underworld. And that's why he gives fire or consciousness to mankind. He gives consciousness to mankind because he sees something in what you call a demigod, half man, half God, that a man, some type of, and this goes into your Uberman research, like this half man, half God being is going to bridge the gap and set the Titans free, set
Mm.
chaos free from the underworld to overthrow the order of the world. So it's very interesting. He is the
Half
archetype of Lucifer as well. But go ahead.
half man, half God that's going to set the chaos free.
Mhm.
That's that's that Daniel 2:42 verse,
There you go.
mixing
That's
the
a lot
iron
of
with clay.
verses. I could name a lot of biblical verses.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good point. Good
We can
point.
go through a lot with that.
Man,
Have a whole
man mixing with something not
yeah.
human, and and I just keep going back to transhuman cybernetics or robotics for that verse. Not saying that's exactly what it's about, but man, it came back to mind when you just said what you said there.
It has to be that
Wow.
because technology gave technology. Fire helped with technology. It wasn't just fire. Fire isn't just a allegory. It's consciousness to be consciously, and consciousness is just awareness. So man wasn't really aware. You ever heard of the bicameral mind? The
Yeah, but I've
uh,
heard of it.
it's like a time frame where they said man, there was a group of men that literally could hear God. It's not no spooky like literally God's voice was coming from whatever another dimension or something, and it was hearing like instructions from like God said, go over here, like go over there, and everything. Like literally comes out Israelite cosmology study. I forgot the guy who wrote about the bicameral mind, but over time, his voice became a whisper. And then come to figure out, the Gnostics said that this whispering voice the whole time was the devil. It wasn't the original God, it was the creator of the physical world. And that's where Christians and the theology gets into the war and the fight between that. So whatever this voice was, it was very loud and clear in the orders and the direction that it was given to man and what it needed to do. And, but they said that the voice was a war god. He loved war. There's a lot of war in the Old Testament. Like a lot of
Mhm.
Christian theologians don't like to deal with the Old Testament, but there was a lot of wars and a lot of death, so
Mhm.
do with that
Yeah,
with what you want. But yeah.
it's definitely in there. And if you get into the seed war
Mhm.
theology out of Genesis 3:15, where it says that there's two seeds. There's Eve's seed, and then there's going to be the seed of Satan, and they're
Yes.
going to battle. One will
Cain.
one
Was it Cain?
Cain's kind of involved with it, yeah.
Okay.
But well, it could be the line of Cain or the Nephilim
Hmm.
or the line of Cain merging with the Nephilim,
Okay.
which I
Okay.
think is
Okay.
probably what. But either way, you've got us who are humans, and then you've
Hmm.
got something else that's non-human, that's Nephilim, that's half fallen angel, according
Yeah.
to that. So,
Um,
so the war in the so according to the serpent seed doctrine, the war, all that war in the Old Testament, a lot of it was about the humans versus the Nephilim or the
yeah.
Nephilim bloodlines or the Cain bloodline and all that. Just
Okay.
interesting.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting angle.
It's an
That's an
interesting
inter
angle.
that's an interesting angle. I would say, but the Gnostic text also talks about the humans from the beginning of Eden that had the divine spark versus the humans that were counterfeit spirits. That sound like more, you mix with a divine light and you mix with darkness or the materialism of the planet or the dimension that you're in. There was a war between the enlightened beings who came down here to transmutate this realm, and you had the ones that just wanted to facilitate the chaos of this realm. And the Nag Hammadi text goes deeply in the war between these two groups of people. So maybe that's similar to the Nephilim offspring with Cain and the normal born. You said it was the seed of Eve, or the other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the seed of Eve, which would just be humans, just the sons of Adam, sons of
Hmm.
Adam. But yeah, that's
Sons of Adam. Sons of Adam. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I mean, I think what you find in a lot of these texts is a different version of the same story, anyways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing
Yeah.
about it. Like when you go down theology, there's so many, what do you call it? Hermeneutics, how you interpret
Hmm.
the biblical text, hermeneutics and everything. These are
Yeah.
interpretations of it. But um,
You know, I'll say this though, the Thule Society
yeah,
was, I think, the German society that so the occult movement that was happening in the late 1800s Germany that bled into the turn of the century that merged into the Nazi reign. A lot of that was this Thule Society. It was and they were playing with the Overman idea.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think they were playing with some Gnostic ideas as well, and possibly even some ideas like the Nephilim from the Bible or Book of Enoch. And but they were playing with the Overman lineage idea where they thought that they were from these supermen.
Yes.
And those occultists in the Thule Society had big plans for Greenland too. They thought that it was the land of Ultima Thule, and it was the land
Mhm.
of their ancestors who had these superhuman abilities. And some people have thought that that was, their ancestors were mixed with fallen angels or what have you. Something in their DNA changed them and made them supermen. Either way, they believe they were descendants of them. And but as it relates to Greenland, it's interesting because there's a base there that the Nazis had called Thule Air Base, and we came in and took it. It's a Space Force base now. It's called Pacific or something like that. But
Hmm.
it was called Thule Air Base. And it was it was a German base, and it sounds to me like they named it after the Thule Society or the Thule Societies, however you want to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
too late.
So,
Cool. Yeah.
but I just wanted to circle it back for a second to the idea of Greenland and and potentially being New Atlantis. You know.
It could be, and I mean that's right because you think of Norse mythology, you got the Jotunheim,
Hmm.
giants, and what they call the Thyrsus. It was the giants, and everything came out of the Ginnungagap, and you had Muspelheim, you had Niflheim. The Nordic religion,
Oh yeah,
a
that's
good
right.
bit of America, I would say white America, they are returning to their pagan roots of Nordic mysticism. A good bit of them. You go to Appalachian Mountains, they're either into Druidic mysticism or they're into this Nordic thing, but a lot of the Nordic aspects of it, the Alderun system, the runosophy of it, there's another dark magic system called Cider. Um, that's connected to secret Nazi orders as well. They were really into Nordic mythos as well, but understanding the whole context to it is deeply connected to what you were saying earlier, the birthing of the Thyrses, the giants, and who has the lineage of either the who's what was the Odin the name of the gods of Asgard. I forgot their name,
Well, you
but
definitely had those Nephilim ice giants too that you mentioned.
Jotunheim, yeah,
Yeah.
the Jotunheim. But there was another. Oh God, there were another group of gods. I can't remember now, guys, but yeah, they really believe that they're going to bring on Ragnarok.
Right. Hmm.
So but they're believing
Hmm.
from a cult prophetic type thing where they're getting ready right now. When the lights actually cut off, going back to paradise, the president had a switch in the TV series for either a nuclear causing what is it called, mad, when all of the countries send nuclear weapons at each other because some tsunami hit and caused some type of volcanic eruption. So he was like, I'm send missiles. I can either send missiles, back and forth, China, Russia to US, or there was this hidden button where all of the satellites over all countries, I don't even know how he has this technology, turns into a EMP and he sets the world back 3 to 4 ages, cutting off all electricity, you know, killing electricity across the whole world and setting us back to what the dark ages or whatever.
Hmm.
So if that happened, some of these Nordic um belief systems that's surviving in America and in Germany or other places, they're waiting on that. They're
Man, that's it.
believing that the Ragnarok is, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, it's the well, so I lived in the North Carolina mountains for a while. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, okay,
That's
okay.
that's spot on. There's a lot of people who have returned to these belief systems there
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
sure. I
Yeah.
could totally
Boom.
see that scenario happening. Like I could totally see that happening, man.
I know a woman out there, I won't say her name, but she was filling me in with some things they worship water out there. Like there's some water cults out there. And she was like, yeah, you can bring you and a group of people and you can come. I have the mountain. I forgot which mountain it is, but she said, I think is it Burns? What's by Appalachia? Either is Burn something. It's not Boone, but it's like Burns. But anyways, she said,
Yeah.
yeah, you can lay in these springs behind her house. Yes, she was like,
Okay.
yeah, and I can teach you how to astral travel in the water.
Mm.
through I could teach you how to use water from these. And then she says that inside, the reason why, you remember what happened with that hurricane hitting that area a couple of years back? She says something like it was HARP sending that hurricane because they wanted to get the mineral. And I have it in my phone, but she
Lithium.
showed me it's
Lithium.
lithium, but it's something else. It's
I'm not
something else
sure.
even. Yeah, it was lithium because that's proven. I think that's in
Ash County, maybe Asheville as well.
Asheville. Some of it, they were looking for the lithium. You're right about that.
Right.
You're not incorrect, but it
Oh,
was something.
I'm
Yeah,
sure there was something else. That sounds right. I've always thought that there was more to that, more
but
than just lithium.
she showed me a picture of this thing, Tim. I had never ever seen anything like it. It had like a what's that gem that when you look at it, it starts with a O. It's not it turns like a rainbow color
Oh,
when you
okay.
turn it. It's not
Oh,
orichalcum or anything. It starts with an O.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looked like that, but it came out the mountain.
Okay. Okay.
And it was big slabs of it. And she says, "Don't tell anybody about this or nothing, but we got some stuff here, like some
Yeah.
stuff nobody knows." Yeah.
Man, yeah, wow, that's amazing. Well, hey, we came back.
Yeah.
We can start wrapping it up, my friend. But we
Yeah.
came back to crystals.
Yeah, we made a full circle, right?
We came back to crystals.
Lemurian tech,
Atlantean,
right?
what was the other place? Lemurian
Yeah,
crystals.
yeah,
Man, this was
yeah.
fun, man. This is a lot of
Great.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
man.
I know we could talk for hours and I could say a lot. I could tell you a lot about the North Carolina mountains. There's just to
Mhm.
put a bow on what you're just saying, there's a lot of weird up there. And these mountains have these veins running through them of all these
Yeah,
different
yeah.
types of minerals and crystals and rocks. There's no telling what's in there. And they're saying that that is one of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth, if not the oldest. They say
It
it
is.
loops. They say it loops up and around and goes up into Europe somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it disappears under the water for a while, but it
I
shows
have.
back up in Ireland. They said it shows back up in Ireland.
Right.
So there's that whole thing. It's very strange because a lot of Appalachians are have Irish roots
Mm,
and they came over and that's where country music came from. It came
mm,
from the Irish folk songs.
mm.
But they came over here not knowing it was the same mountain range they had just left.
Well, we need to talk about those cryptids too. I know we're not going to get into it today, but we got to talk about what's
Yeah.
up in the mountains. Them
Oh
cryptids
yeah.
and all of that. We were supposed to do something about that, but we have to have
Yeah.
a show because I
Let's talk
have
about
some
that.
amazing stuff to reveal about the Kordaluski clouds and the plasma opening certain, I would say, portals to forest regions of how these cryptids appear to people. You know,
Mm.
we got Lizard
Okay.
Man here in South Carolina.
Yeah. Man, I'm always down to talk about cryptids. I got plenty on that. We
Okay.
could talk about that. But man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you hanging out with me this long. Like
Well, thank you, man.
we always kick it and you know, it's always a good conversation and I appreciate it. Tell everybody again where they could find you. Tell them all the stuff, man.
Yeah, man, you guys can follow me or subscribe to me on YouTube at Ani Osaru. You can come over to Instagram. I'm at the Spiritual Shade Room 1. I post all types of stuff daily. That's very interesting. And finally, you can follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/THE_spiritual shade room. It should pop up as the True Occult newspaper. And if anyone's looking for Vedic astrological readings, they can email me at startribe777 at gmail.com.
All right, man. Cool. Giving out the email. That's bold, but all right. I like it. I
Yeah,
like
I
it.
always
I
do
like
that.
it. Yeah. 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 You guys, I'll have all the links down below. Ani's been A pleasure. Thank you as always. And for everyone listening, as always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.